Hi, fifth graders, and welcome back to Chapter 2. Today we are working on Lesson 2.9, which is on page 137. This lesson is Problem Solving with Division. Our essential question for the day, how can the strategy draw a diagram help you solve a division problem? Our standard for today is under Number and Operations in Base 10, 5.6. This standard states that I can divide up to 4-digit dividends by 2-digit divisors to find a quotient, and I can illustrate and explain by using equations, rectangular arrays, and or area models. So with our strategy drawing a diagram, we will be using the different picture models to help us solve our division problems. So to unlock the question on page 137, it says Sean and his family chartered a fishing boat for the day. Sean caught a blue marlin and an amberjack. The weight of the blue marlin was 12 times as great as the weight of the amberjack. The combined weight of both fish was 273 pounds. How much did each fish weigh? So we need to make sure that we are understanding everything that the problem is giving us. So we know from the question at the end of this story is that the combined weight of both fish was 273 pounds, and we need to find how much each fish weighed. So I need to find the weight of each fish. And looking back up at the story problem, the information that I need to know is that he caught a total of 273 pounds of fish, and that the weight of the blue marlin is 12 times as great as the weight of the amberjack. In order to help me solve this problem, I can use the strategy draw a diagram. And then divide. So I can draw and use a bar model to write the division problem that helps me find the weight of each fish. Now when we go to solve, in order to help us figure out what our division problem is, we need to draw boxes to find the divisor. So I will draw one box to show the weight of the amberjack, because we know the amberjack is the smaller fish. It does state that the blue marlin is 12 times as great as the amberjack. So that means I need to draw a model that has 12 equal sized boxes to represent the weight of the blue marlin. And then I can divide the total weight of the two fish by the number of boxes that I have drawn for both fish. So again, we know that there are 12 boxes for the blue marlin since it's 12 times bigger, and then one box for the amberjack. So that's how I find the divisor of 13. So I need to take the total weight of both fish, which was 273, and divide it by the 13 boxes. So they started the division problem for us. We know that 13 could not go into 2, but 13 can go into 27 twice, which would equal 26 when I multiplied 13 times 2. So now to subtract 27 minus 26 leaves me with 1. And then I need to bring down the 3 for the next digit. So 13 now goes into 13 one time. 13 times 1 is 13. Subtract, and that leaves me with 0. For today's lesson, you should not have a remainder for any of your division problems. If you do, that means your divisor is wrong, or if you do have the correct divisor, you made some sort of division mistake. Again, do not have any remainders for any of your division problems today. So now that I found that one box would equal 21 pounds, I am going to represent the 21 pounds in every single box. So because the amberjack has only one box, that does tell me that the amberjack was 21 pounds. And then I need to write the 21 pounds for each box of the blue marlin. So now to figure out the weight of the blue marlin, I need to take the weight of one box, which is 21, and multiply it by the 12 boxes. So when I multiply, 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. Cross off the 2 since I'm done multiplying it out. Drop a 0. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Now I need to add those partial products together. 2 plus 0 is 2. 4 plus 1 is 5. And then bring down the 2. So I just found that the blue marlin weighed 252 pounds. To check to make sure that I have the weight of both fish, I can add their two weights together. I can take the 252 pounds plus the 21 pounds, and I need to make sure that that equals the total weight of both fish combined. So when I add those together, that does give me my 273 pounds. So I should have the correct weight for both fish. Moving on to the next page, to try another problem, it says Jason, Murray, and Dana went fishing. Dana caught a red snapper. Jason caught a tuna that weighed 3 times as great as the weight of the red snapper. Murray caught a sailfish with a weight 12 times as great as the weight of the red snapper. If the combined weight of the 3 fish was 208 pounds, how much did the tuna weigh? So by looking at that final question, they're asking only how much the tuna weighs. So what do I need to find? The weight of the tuna. So now what information do I need to use? So ladies and gentlemen, I need to make sure that I know that Jason caught a tuna with a weight 3 times as great as the weight of the red snapper. So tuna is 3 times as great as the red snapper. The next piece of information that I need to use is that Murray caught a sailfish with a weight 12 times as great as the weight of the red snapper. So sailfish is 12 times as great. Oops, sorry about that. As the red snapper. So by looking at both of those pieces of information, we do see that the red snapper was the smallest fish. The final piece of information that we need to know is that the combined weight of the 3 fish was 208 pounds. So total weight is 208 pounds. And how will I use this information? Well, I am going to draw a diagram to solve. So now if you recall from the previous question, we need to make sure we draw the boxes to represent each fish. So the snapper, if you look at the information that we need to use, the snapper is the smallest fish because we see that the tuna is 3 times bigger than the snapper and the sailfish is 12 times bigger than the snapper. So we always need one piece of information to represent the one box. So for this one, it is the red snapper. So I am going to represent the weight of the red snapper with one box. Then by looking up at the information that was given to us, we know that the tuna was 3 times larger than the red snapper. So I am going to draw a bar and divide it into 3 boxes to represent the weight of the tuna. And then for the sailfish, we know that is 12 times as great as the weight of the red snapper. So I'm going to draw a long bar, and I'm going to divide that into 12 equal boxes. And then the final piece of information that was given to us is that the combined weight for all 3 fish is 208 pounds. So now by looking at this information, I can set up my division problem. So I know that the dividend, so the number that goes on the inside, is 208. And now I need to count the boxes to figure out what my divisor is. So my sailfish had 12 boxes, so I know there's 12, plus the 3 boxes for the tuna, which would give me 15, plus the 1 box for the red snapper, to give me a total of 16 boxes. And now I can divide. So 16 cannot go into 2, but it goes into 20 one time. 20 minus 16 is 4. And bring down my next number. So 16 does go into 48 3 times. 16 times 3 is 48. So when I subtract, I do not have a remainder. Now I have to make sure that I write the quotient inside every single box, because each box now represents 13 pounds. So now I can figure out the weight of the tuna. I know the tuna is 3 boxes, so I need to take 13 times 3 to get the weight of that tuna. So 13 times 3 is 39. So my final answer, since I only had to find the weight of the tuna, is 39 pounds. So for the bullet point, how can you check if your answer is correct? Well, remember from the previous question, I added the 2 weights of the fish together to find it, to see if that equaled the total weight. So I could do the same thing for this question. After I figure out how much the sailfish weighs by taking my 13 times 12 and then adding on the 39 pounds plus the 13 pounds, I can make sure that the total weight of the fish equals what they said up in the problem. Moving on to the next page. Under the share and show, it says Paula caught a tarpon with a weight that was 10 times as great as the weight of the permit fish she caught. The total weight of the 2 fish was 132 pounds. How much did each fish weigh? So my question is asking for the weight of both fish. So I need to make sure for my answer I list the weight of each fish. And the information that I need to use is I need to know that the tarpon was 10 times as great as the permit fish, and that the total pounds that the 2 fish equals was 132. So now I'm going to make sure I draw the boxes. Since we know the permit fish was the smaller fish, I'm going to represent that fish with the 1 box. And then the tarpon would then be 10 boxes, since it's 10 times as great. So remember, just draw a long bar and then divide it into 10 boxes. And the combined weight of both fish is 132 pounds. So now, to figure out what my division problem is, I need to take 132 pounds and divide it by the number of boxes that I have. So with the tarpon having 10 boxes plus the 1 box for the permit fish, I have a total of 11 boxes. And this is a basic math fact, so if you know how to solve this basic math fact without showing your work, that is awesome. I have 132 divided by 11. If you do solve it out, you would find that it does equal 12. So I am going to represent each box with the 12 pounds. So I know right away that the permit fish, that had a weight of 12 pounds. To find the weight of the tarpon, I need to take the 12 pounds times the 10 boxes, which we know equals 120. So that weighs 120 pounds. Again, I can check my answer to make sure it's reasonable by adding the two weights together, and it does equal my 132 total pounds that it said up in the question. Moving on to question number 2. What if the weight of the tarpon was 11 times the weight of the permit fish and the total weight of the two fish was 132 pounds? How much would each fish weigh? So again, we know that the permit fish, that would still only have the one box. But this time, the tarpon fish, that would have now 11 boxes. So the total pounds is still the same of 132. So this time I am going to have the division problem 132 divided by 12 because there are now 12 boxes between the two fish. 11 for the tarpon, 1 for the permit. And again, basic math fact, 132 divided by 12 is 11. So each box represents 11 pounds. So this time the permit fish only weighs 11 pounds. And now to solve for the tarpon, I have my 11 pounds times the 11 boxes. Again, basic math fact, 11 times 11 is 121. So I know that the tarpon fish weighed 121 pounds. If I add those two weights together, it still gives me my 132 pounds. So I do have a reasonable answer. Moving on to question number 3. For question number 3, it says John caught 4 fish that weighed a total of 252 pounds. The kingfish weighed twice as much as the amberjack, and the white marlin weighed twice as much as the kingfish. The weight of the tarpon was 5 times the weight of the amberjack. How much did each fish weigh? So I know that the total weight that I am working with is 252 pounds. So now I need to figure out how many boxes each fish needs. So it does say that the kingfish weighed twice as much as the amberjack. So that means the amberjack will be the smallest fish. So I am going to just put the letter A for amberjack, and I'm going to represent that fish with 1 box. Then the kingfish, because it's twice as much, would be represented with 2 boxes. Then it says the white marlin weighed twice as much as the kingfish. So because the kingfish had 2 boxes and the white marlin is twice as much as that, I would have to take 2 times 2, and I find that the marlin would have 4 boxes total. And finally, the tarpon was 5 times the weight of the amberjack. So again, the amberjack is only 1 box, so that means the tarpon would have 5 boxes. And combine, it does state that that would equal 252 pounds. So now I can go ahead and set up my division problem, taking the total weight, my 252, divided by the number of boxes. So the tarpon has 5, plus the marlin, which is 4, so that gives me 9, plus the kingfish, which was 2, which gives me 11, plus the amberjack, which is 1, gives me a total of 12 boxes. So now I'm going to divide 252 divided by 12. 12 cannot go into 25, but it does go, or I'm sorry, 12 cannot go into 2, but it does go into 25 2 times. 12 times 2 is 24. Subtract, that leaves me with 1. Bring down my 2. 12 goes into 12 one time. 12 times 1 is 12. Subtract, and there's nothing left. So each box is representing 21 pounds. All right, so now I can find the total weight of all of the fish. Well, the amberjack, with it only having 1 box, we automatically know that that amberjack weighed 21 pounds. So now to find the weight of the kingfish, there are 2 boxes, so I would have to take 21 times 2, which we do know that would equal 42 pounds. Now the marlin had 4 boxes, so I'm taking 21 times 4, and when I multiply that out, that would give me 84. And finally, the tarpon had 5 boxes, so 21 times 5, that would equal 105 pounds. And to check to make sure my answer does make sense, I can add those 4 total weights together. So 5 plus 4 is 9, plus 2 is 11, plus 1 is 13. 1 plus 0 is 0. 1 plus 8 is, 1 plus 0 is 1, plus 8 is 9, plus 4 is 13, plus 2 is 15, and 1 plus 1 is 2. Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. 5 plus 4 is 9, plus 2 is 11, plus 1 is 12. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that sooner. There we go. So it does equal my 252 pounds. So I do know that I have a reasonable answer. So now setting up the questions for your homework. Number 1 was done for you to give you an example. So moving on to number 2. Hallie has 10 times as many pages to read for her homework assignment as Janet. Altogether, they have to read 264 pages. How many pages does each girl have to read? So we know that the final question is asking how many pages each girl has to read. So I will need an answer for Janet, and then also for Hallie. So now to help set this up, we know that Hallie has 10 times as many pages as Janet. So that means Janet has to read the least amount of pages. So I'm going to use J to represent Janet, and since she has to read the least amount, she has the 1 box. And that means Hallie would have the 10 boxes since she's 10 times as many. Too long. All right, and then I know combined, they are reading 264 pages. So now I can set up my division problem where we have to take the total number of pages divided by the number of boxes, which is 11. So make sure you find the number of pages Janet has to read and then the number of pages Hallie has to read. Moving on to number 3, Kelly has 4 times as many songs on her music player as Lou. Tiffany has 6 times as many songs on her music player as Lou. So that means Lou has the least amount of songs, so Lou would have the 1 box. And then Kelly would have the 4 boxes. And then Tiffany would have 6 boxes. And then all together they have 682 songs. How many songs does Kelly have? So for this question, you only have to find the amount that Kelly has. But you do need to use Lou and Tiffany's in order to help you find this information. So your next step is to divide. So 682 divided by the total number of boxes. So Tiffany, again, had 6 boxes. Kelly has 4, so that's 10, plus Lou's 1. So that gives me a total of 11. So make sure you find the number of boxes Kelly has by taking the quotient times her boxes. On the next page, for number 1 and number 2, it is just like the questions in the front. So Chelsea has 11 times as many art brushes as Monique. If they have 60 art brushes altogether, how many brushes does Chelsea have? So we know that Chelsea has more brushes, so that means Monique would be represented with the 1 box, and Chelsea would then have the 11 boxes. And altogether, the girls have a combined of 60 brushes. So make sure you set up your division problem. And then I just need the information for Chelsea. I want to know how many brushes she would have. So set up your division problem by taking the total divided by the number of boxes, and then multiply your quotient times Chelsea's 11 boxes. For question number 2, Joe has a gerbil and a German Shepherd. The Shepherd eats 14 times as much food as the gerbil. Altogether, they eat 225 ounces of dry food per week. How many ounces of food does the German Shepherd eat per week? So we obviously know the German Shepherd would eat way more than the gerbil. So that means the gerbil would have the 1 box, and the Shepherd would have the 14 boxes. And they have a combined total of 225 ounces. So now you need to set up your division problem. Take your total amount of ounces divided by the number of boxes, which is 15 boxes. And then to find the amount of food that the German Shepherd eats, remember you need to multiply the quotient times 14, and that will give you your number of ounces that the German Shepherd will eat. Moving on to the spiral review. Number 3, Janine is twice as old as her brother Mark. If their sum of their ages is 24, how old is Janine? So the easiest way to solve this question is actually by doing the exact same thing as we did for this lesson. So we know that Janine is older than her brother Mark. So Mark would have 1 box. Janine would have 2 boxes since she's twice as old. And they have a combined age of 24. So then set up your division problem. You would take your 24 divided by your 3 boxes, and then I need how old Janine is for the final answer. Remember, you are going to multiply the quotient times the number of boxes. For question number 4, Larry is shipping nails that weigh a total of 53 pounds. He divides the nails equally among 4 shipping boxes. How many pounds of nails does he put in each box? So this is from lesson 2.7, interpreting the remainder. So we do have to figure out how we will interpret the remainder. And our hint to tell us what to do is divides equally. That means there will be no nails left over between any of the boxes. All nails have to be divided in all of the boxes. So you will take 53 divided by 4, and then since you cannot have any nails left over, you will need to have a fraction with your answer. Remember, change the remainder into a fraction. Moving on to question number 5. Annie plants 6 rows of small flower bulbs in a garden. She plants 132 bulbs in each row. How many bulbs does Annie plant? So we need to find the total number of bulbs. Since we need to find the total, that tells us to multiply 132 times 6. And finally, for question number 6, next year, 4 elementary schools will each send 126 students to Bedford Middle School. What is the total number of students the elementary schools will send to the middle school? So again, because we need to find the total, we're taking the 126 students per school and multiplying it by the number of schools there are, which is 4. Please let Mr. Rindell know if you have any questions. Thanks for listening.